Okay, now let me show you another way to understand why the absolute value of x is always positive or 0. Let's take a look at this number 9. And if I ask you, what is the distance from 1 to 0? So what the answer is? The answer will be 1, right? Because if you start from 1 and if you want to move to 0, you only need to move for one step, right? So the answer is 1. Okay, now how about the distance from -1 to 0? The answer is the same. It is 1. We move from -1 to 0. You also just need to move for one step. Okay. So another way to think about the absolute value of x is the absolute value of x gave us the distance from this number x to 0 on the number 9. So that's why the absolute value of positive 5, for example, equals 5. Because if you consider the distance from 5 to 0, this distance equals 5, right? And like if you consider the absolute value of -4, this answer is B4. So when you consider the distance between -4 and 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So the distance is 4, right? And the absolute value of 0 is equal to 0. That's because right now you are standing at 0 at this point. So the distance between 0 and 0 is 0. And then this is why the absolute value of any number will never be equal to a negative number. Because we can't have a negative distance, right? We can't. No matter where you stand on this number 9. And when you consider the distance from the point you stand to the 0, that distance is always be positive. It's always be positive. So this is how we can understand the absolute value from the graph using the geometric interpretation to think about. Okay. So let me do another example. Okay. Right now, I want to solve this equation. So first, I subtract 4 from both sides. So I change the equation into the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 11. So because this equals 11, let's think about which number the distance from that number to 0 is 11. So the first number is 11, right? And there is another number. From that number to 0, the distance is also 11. So that number is -11. So that means, okay, the 3x plus 2, it could be here. That means 3x plus 2. equals 11. Or the 3x plus 2 could be here. So that means 3x plus 2 gonna be negative 11. So that's how we generate these two equations. And by solving each equation, you can find the answer. So x equals negative 13 over 3, and x equals 3.